Hey there, I'm Mr. Terry, your history teacher. Welcome back to another History Teacher X video. We're back once again with some Mitsi Studio. And funny enough, in the recommendation I got from this video from a viewer, they said, don't worry, Mr. Terry, this is one that will be school appropriate. Now, when I hear that, I will always take that as sarcasm because that's never the case, but we still love to watch these. Okay, this video is called Witch Hunts. Original videos can be linked down below. Make sure you're supporting them. They've been awesome. Check out Mr. Terry Original History. It's my new channel with some fun history content. I think if you like some of this stuff, you'll like what we're doing over there. All right, let's get started. I got my spooky shirt on too. Hope you all had a great Halloween, by the way.
The concept of witchcraft can be traced back thousands of years, and countless stories can be linked to the practice of witchcraft around the world. Witchery is commonly perceived as a bunch of individuals chatting with Satan, casting spells and boiling poisons to become more toxic than Mountain Dew. However, witchery did not have the...
I was like, did he say Jews? But it's, you know, you're English, you say Jew. Sorry, Brits, y'all sound some French sometimes with how you pronounce stuff.
Toxic than Mountain Dew. However, witchery did not have the same negative associations in every part of the world.
Code Red, Baja Blast, top 2.
For example, hieroglyphs depicting the supernatural forces and ritualistic magic are found in the oldest pyramids in Egypt. So, the Egyptian to-do list was magic first, then building pyramids.
By the way, if you're into like history of magic, we're currently in post-production with a video we've got making on the Romans and their belief and use of magic. I think you're really going to like it. Hopefully coming out here in the next week or so. That'll be on the Originals channel too. Link down below.
Thousands of years later, the Christian church in early medieval Europe was somewhat skeptical of the existence of witches and viewed the whole idea as misguiding. Which makes sense when you are all in promoting the existence of God, Jesus, and some more.
God is like or burn in
that. Magic. Wait, what? All in promoting the existence of God, Jesus, and some more of that.
You know, we did a video that's out now, it came out last week, about the belief in dragons across history. And interesting how when the Catholic Church kind of came into its power, the Christian church in general, how it immediately got tied to like Satan and the devil. And you'll see that happening with like witches or anybody that may have potentially some kind of like supernatural power immediately gets shifted to the thought that they are like possessed by, you know, like the devil, especially in like Christian movements. But they're saying, you know, belief in magic and supernatural interventions is as old as time. I mean, people believed because it's just the absence of like science that there were so many supernatural properties about how the world works and how things work. And naturally, there you might believe that some people could, in some way, whether it's just anecdotal or coincidental, have something that seems like an unexplained activity and tying that to magic and potentially witchcraft, especially if it's seen as something negative. You know, if it's one thing, if you're using to kind of magic to, you know, make it rain so the crops grow. So that's great. But what if like in this Rome video we're producing, you're using it to curse people?
Magic and witchcraft were often seen as remnants of paganism.
Correct.
And those practicing it were typically viewed as plain out ignorant
Sun
rather
worship,
than malevolent.
Worship multiple gods.
Because the church does not need a lot of time to show they can be dickheads. By the 12th and 13th centuries,
I don't think I could go back and show that. You'll have to rewind it on yourself. But when he said blank head, y'all saw what his head looked like. Was that the Pope? Oh, no. Nope. Not in schools. Sorry. We axed that in the first minute.
Attitudes began to change. The church started to associate witchcraft more directly with heresy. However, the full-scale prosecution of witches was not yet established. Executions were relatively rare, and prosecution often meant excommunication or imprisonment. Not too shabby compared to what was coming.
We'll see if they talk about like the Salem witch trials, which if you're an American, you've probably heard about the most. But it might actually be disappointing when you find out actually how few people were actually prosecuted as witches. It's just a handful.
During the late Middle Ages, the church began to get more creative dealing with witches and magic, probably because the whole witch thing was now becoming more of a thing, and the church reckoned people were dumb enough to obey them exploiting this whole thing.
Well, and not just like witch-like behavior, but anything that was seen as heretical. I mean, hear about the persecution of like Jews, for example, in the Middle Ages, especially around the plague, where they said, you know, they were like in some way or another creating like the plague and spreading the plague, where there's some kind of, I don't know, dark magic or something, just anything that seemed against your cultural belief. It's like, witch.
15th century onwards, witches were believed to make pacts with the devil, exchanging their souls for magic powers. People also believed witches were able to cast spells and curses.
Right.
Another feature witches were known for was shapeshifting, or transgenderism as we know it today. Basically, you could just identify to be a crazy flying bitch with a long pole between your legs.
By the way, I'm gonna rewind that because it seemed like something else passing. Where did the witch flying on the broom thing come from? Y'all that are into that history, do we get any like Wiccans in the chat? Y'all are still consider yourself witches, right? Where did that thing come from? And why is it a broom? I need a history lesson on that. Let me know down in the comments, okay?
Basically, you could just identify to be a crazy flying bitch with a long pole between your legs. Sound familiar? Witches were also known for abducting children. Besides that, they were accused of causing infertility. Particularly the church feared this.
I'd be fired if I showed this. You know, sometimes like on the Halloween of or right before, you know, class that I have on Halloween or maybe the day before, you know, or holidays in general, you know, if I have a few minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, maybe in class where I can show something that, you know, is festive and be the history of Halloween or Christmas and stuff. And, you know, it'd be great to be able to show something like this, but just further confirming I can't, like showing somebody becoming a eunuch essentially there, but it looked like that was against their will there. It's like in history, the people that actually volunteered to be eunuchs for political power, but apparently not the children that the witch or whatever from Hansel and Gretel, whatever was going on here, just did to that young guy.
Yes. The combination of priests, infertility, and missing children, not comforting at all. And speaking of people trying to keep track of your every move, some things never change. Back then it was the church, today it's your internet provider, advertisers, and a few digital witch hunters watching everything you do online. That's why this video is sponsored by CyberGhost VPN, one of the best VPN services out there, with over 38 million users worldwide.
With a nice
VPN, or virtual private network, creates a secure encrypted tunnel between you and the internet, using secure servers in 100
Even it's for a VPN,
countries,
which people
so no
often use for
what you do online.
Illegal
CyberGhost
and naughty
encrypts your data,
activities.
hides your IP address, and keeps your online activity completely private.
of people
no
are using
witchcraft required. You can use it on up to 7 devices at once.
Would a witch use a
content
VPN?
from Netflix, Amazon Prime, and more. And it even comes with a 45-day money-back guarantee. Go to www.cyberghostvpn.com/Mitsi Studio to get 83% off and 4 months free. And protect yourself from the modern-day witch hunt.
Fair enough. If you're a witch,
anyway, the list of activities a witch could engage in and therefore be prosecuted for was getting longer. All this resulted in the infamous Inquisition. After some time, inquisitors were authorized to investigate and prosecute individuals accused of witchcraft.
We've been talking about that actually in my class right now. We talk about like the Reconquista and the Iberian Peninsula being retaken by the Christians. Also in the midst of the Catholic Reformation, which the Catholic Church was really trying to double down on their beliefs, kind of purify it, strengthen its beliefs, remove any evildoers, which became a problem if you were a Jew or if you were a Muslim at this time. But throw in witches, anything that might be seen as heretical to sort of purify these Catholic lands.
It goes without saying that these investigations brought a certain amount of pain and discomfort to the ones targeted by the church or the people.
I feel like the rest of this video is just going to be torture.
Especially that last one was a bit tricky, since anybody could be accused by almost anyone just by pointing a finger.
And if you're a woman, it's like, wait, she just talked about science. I caught her reading a book. Throw her in the flames.
Try talking your way out of such a watertight judicial process. Even men could be accused of being a witch, but most times the victims were women of old age or people with status who were put on trials for all kinds of reasons.
I remember having a conversation with my community. It was on Discord or somewhere it is. Is a male witch a wizard? I feel like wizard has like a broader and almost like less nefarious connotation to it. Or is just male witch? Is witch just not gender exclusive? But is it a wizard? Am I missing another term? Let me know as well.
Or people with status who were put on trials for all kinds of reasons. Go figure. A great example that shows how primitive these trials would become are the Northampton witch trials. The main accuser was Elizabeth Belcher, who disliked a young lady called Joan Brown. Elizabeth claimed the young lady put a spell on her. When she
Interesting, by the way, and I'm going to go back and get this finished, how this like witch hysteria and prosecutions, came over with the religious refugees that are going to end up being the pilgrims and some of the early settlers and would eventually be the, British 13 colonies. But how quickly they started doing it, the persecution of these people and using terms like witch.
She fell ill, that was all she Brown. Elizabeth claimed the young lady put a spell on her. When she fell ill, that was all she needed to take things
heard
to
this
court.
story. Did I react to a video
Her
about
brother
this?
William joined in on the accusations. He claimed he visited Brown's cottage to lift the curse, but an invisible wall stopped him.
Maybe it's just a lot of stories
Now,
like
that
this.
sounds like very strong evidence to dispute during a trial, but to be fair, one of our jokes would probably also have her burned at the stake in those days.
True.
To make these trials even more pathetic, witch hunters and courts often received financial support to prosecute these witches.
Oh, really? Who's paying
To
for
obtain
this?
any confessions, the accused were suspended by their wrists, which were tied behind their backs, often resulting in dislocated shoulders.
Right.
And not very pleasant.
I already have a bad shoulder from a soccer injury in my youthful days in a game. And it's been like 15 years and it's never hurt. Or sorry, it's never healed. That just made me wince just thinking about it.
Backs, often resulting in dislocated shoulders, and not very pleasant. When using the rack, the accused were tied to a frame and their bodies became stretched, causing severe pain and potential dislocation of limbs.
You ever hear the like mythology that Leo Messi, right, the goat of soccer, that they tried to make him taller because he's small by like stretching him out? An Argentine friend of mine had said that was this like funny rumor that they did that when he was young. He's not even tall. Like, I don't even get that. Maybe if it was Cristiano Ronaldo, he's kind of spread out. He looks like stretched taffy or something, but not our little guy Leo.
Their bodies became stretched, causing severe pain and potential dislocation of limbs. Waterboarding was also used, and I was hoping not having to explain this one would save us some time. Thumb screws screwed up your thumbs, which makes sense, and iron boots fucked up your feet, causing intense pain to the victim. You can imagine many people screamed.
Like, you hear about these medieval tortures and like how creative some of them are, and it's like, were there people that, I don't know if they were paid or something, just thinking of weird creative ways to torture people? Was there like a torture think tank in the Middle Ages? We're like, okay, who's got the weirdest idea? I need 5 weird ideas by the end of the day. Then they have some meeting and try to weird each other.
It's causing intense pain to the victim. You can imagine many people screamed and ultimately confessed to being a witch. Hell,
Yeah.
I would even confess to
end the
fingering
pain.
Maria in a bend-over position just to get out of that pickle. For many victims, the torture was followed by a death sentence, although sometimes it was difficult to say where one ended and the other began.
Ugh. Something they do say about torture is that it's not actually effective information or way to get valid information. Like if somebody truly doesn't know whatever it is you're trying to get from them, torturing them doesn't make them all of a sudden know the information. So what ends up happening to stop this, stop the pain and the anguish, is to just give up any information that can indeed be faulty.
Some women got executed by hanging or beheading. Nothing special about that, until it happens to you, of course.
Sure.
Other forms of execution included being burned or drowned. When drowned, people believed if a person was a witch, they would float for some reason. If the accused were innocent, they would sink. Let me tell you, one does not need a degree in this field to figure out the outcome was going to be bad for the accused either way.
I mean, if they can't swim or they're wearing something, obviously, if they're wearing something that could sink them, like tying some cement blocks. By the way, the whole throwing in the water reminds me of one of the laws that came out of Hammurabi's code, the oldest law code that we have on record, that came out of ancient Babylon. And it said that if a woman was found guilty, which may not take a lot of evidence, of adultery against her husband, that they would throw her into like the Tigris or Euphrates rivers. And they would give the option to the husband, if he wants to save her, he can go jump in the river and save her from drowning if he wants. It's actually written in their law code.
Another cruel execution method was called pressing, where heavy stones were placed on a victim's chest. It's not a given that this method was more or less practical than the other ones. It just looked gruesome, so it was a good deterrent for any would-be witches. As we mentioned earlier, most of the people pulled from the streets and prosecuted were women. To be more precise, around 75 to 80% of those accused were female. With women generally having a hard time throughout history, it's kind of refreshing to see them finally being well represented in at least one field. Now, don't come after me for that joke, you bunch of Karens, or I'll send the Inquisition squad to hunt you all down. Anyway.
Problem is, so many of them weren't Karens. I mean, Karens, you all might have another argument, but like, so many of them were non-Karens, I think.
Moving on with the story. It's tough to pin down the exact number of victims who were tried and executed across Europe, but if we had to guess, probably a lot. Most executions took place in the northern regions of the Holy Roman Empire, what we now call Germany. So, before Germany was Germany, lots of killings. Once Germany was Germany, still lots of killings. Truly a rich history.
Oh my gosh.
In some Middle Eastern countries, stoning was more common for women accused of witchcraft.
Sure.
These days, however,
just the whole theistic world, man. Heresy being a crime. It's how you can root out, and how certain, religions might become popular is you literally kill off the opposition.
These countries have modernized of witchcraft. These days, however, most of these countries have modernized, and in some of them, stoning is now reserved only for women who dare to speak their minds. Ouch! And if we hop over to Central Africa, witch hunts are still prevalent in multiple African cultures. Countries like Nigeria, Tanzania, and Congo see many cases of elderly women or children being punished for other people's misfortunes. In the country of Malawi, more than 70% of the population still believes witchcraft is the instigator for all kinds of problems.
How many
percent of the population? In the country of Malawi, more than 70% of the population still believes witchcraft is the instigator for all kinds of problems. One of them being the bad economic situation of the country, I guess. Although if 70% of your people still believe in witches, maybe you've got...
Wife, no blank, because witch. What? These signs. Where is my money? Anything else I'm missing?
Want your first hint. Although if 70% of your people still believe in witches, maybe you've got your first hint why your economy is beyond fucked. On top of that, you have no white American or European inquisitor to blame for that mess. Nope, this is on you guys. We hope you enjoyed our flaming witchcraft video.
I mean, if it's related to certain non-African religions, I guess some of that got implanted there and then mixed in with so many of the beliefs. Now, what did end up happening in a lot of these cases, both Islam and Christianity, when it came into Africa, was the blending of a lot of these, of a lot of African traditions with the traditions of Islam and Christianity. And a lot of them had to deal with things like spirits and like ancestral worship and belief in spirits, and intertwining that actually with their practice of these monotheistic religions. So I can see why maybe some of this could even be tied together in a place that may practice like Abrahamic religions. Now, if it's, not one of those, then whatever. Have to come up with different explanations there.
This is on you guys. We hope you enjoyed our flaming witchcraft video. If you like these deep dives into history, make sure to subscribe and check out some more videos on our channel. See you around.
Turn into a witch. Get her. Final thoughts. All right, so like I said, when I got comments about trying to, or wanting me to review this video, I was like, don't worry, Mr. Terry, you'll be able to show this in class. What ended up happening is I think it might have been the least appropriate video that they've ever made for classroom viewing. So sorry, I don't know how you guys are going to be able to actually like legitimately tell me if a Mitsi Studio video can go into a classroom, because I just won't believe you anymore. Or I don't know, maybe it's got to be like reverse psychology, and you're like, Mr. Terry, do not show this next Mitsi Studio video. I don't know. I feel like at this point that's going to have the same amount of convincing power as saying me that it is appropriate. All right. Hopefully you had fun watching this with me. Hopefully you enjoyed the little other historical tidbits there. You know, it's what we do here. If you haven't seen all of them, I've now commented on probably, I don't know, a dozen Mitsi Studio videos, and I have made a playlist, so you can check that out in my playlist of Mitsi Studio reactions. And again, while you're at it, check out Mr. Terry Originals. I think you'll enjoy those too. See you next time. Bye.